Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode one of the Forced Pivot podcast. And my name is Antoine Medley. I'm your host of the podcast. And I pray that this will be the first of many. It won't be the first of and the last. Hope it'll be the first of many. And I want to thank so many people who decided to actually sit and check us out and listen to the conversation that we hope to bring tonight. I think to myself, like, okay, well, Antoine, why are you doing this? And I feel like I'm doing this because, in the last, gosh, especially the last 2 years, the world changed and everybody in it has been forced to pivot in some sorts, right? I mean, we've all been forced to pivot in some way, in a huge way, with COVID and everything else, but at the same time, life happened before COVID, and life is going to happen after COVID, and we've been forced to make decisions and changes again before COVID, and we'll continue to make decisions and changes now to suit our lives, to make our lives better. We make decisions every day. But let me go ahead and introduce myself because, again, a lot of people may not know who I am. My name is Antoine Medley, and first of all, I'd like to introduce myself as a husband. I'm a father, I'm a son, I'm a brother. I call myself a philanthropist. I'm an author. I'm a, gosh, what else am I? I'm a mentee. I'm a mentor. So I find myself to be many things, many different things to different people. And I try to be a positive light in the lives of anyone that I happen to, cross paths with. But again, I bring this to you because, um, I mean, for me, like most people, over the COVID break, we've had a lot of different things. Just, I've lost an aunt, to COVID. I've had friends who lost family members to COVID. And for me, most, I guess I could say devastatingly, back in August, I lost my brother, but it wasn't to COVID. I lost my brother, which is another reason why I'm doing this tonight, is because his death has shown me that nothing is promised. Tomorrow's not promised. So if there's anything that you want to do, that you feel like you need to do and want to do in life, you better do it, because nothing is promised. We think we can push things off, and I'll do it tomorrow. Well, but that's not always the case, because tomorrow could your tomorrow could not be here, and if that's the case, then you know you better do and live your life to the fullest now, because again, nothing is promised to us. And I know with COVID, lots of people lost jobs. I know I'm blessed to be able to work at home. My wife is blessed to work at home, so it's like we sort of didn't miss a beat, with COVID. I would say employment wise, I mean, we were in the house, locked up in the house with the kids. My girls, I've got two daughters. They were doing online school, and I had one who was a senior, and her whole senior year was at home. So her senior year was very different. It's one that she'll remember forever. she'll remember her really standoffish graduation. But again, I mean, they're just things in life that you'll never forget. And I mean, and it's just amazing to me that they had to actually live through that. Right? It's amazing to me that I, that any of us had to live through that, because it's sometimes I still can't believe that we actually went through this and are still kind of going through this. And I'm hearing about different outbreaks in different parts of the world, and I'm just like praying every day, man. And please don't let that come back this way. Let's let these numbers continue to go down until we can sort of get back to normal, whatever that's going to look like. I have that conversation all the time with my wife, and it's like, what is normal? What is that going to look like? Um, you know, and I don't know. I don't know what that's ever really going to look like for us. At all. Will it ever be back? Will we ever be back to where we were before? I don't know. I don't know. But again, my huge one of my huge force pivots, probably the biggest loss I've ever had in my life is my brother. And again, it's forced me to open my eyes and live a certain way, because nothing's nothing's promised. I would have never thought he'd be not be here, but he's not here with us. And So, life goes on, and we'll find a way to move on. Because again, like I've been saying with some of the stuff I've been posting on social media about the show is, when you think you're going right, life can force you left. And when life forces you left, what do you do? What do you do? How do you handle that? How do you handle that loss? And I'm still, I found out yesterday that I'm still trying my best to handle it. And, I'm still trying to figure that out for myself. But again, what I want to do is bring people, so that, people can hear the stories of other people and how they're dealing with the forced pivots of life, right? How are they dealing with it? Because I think, some people that I'm hopefully going to bring on to the show will be able to provide some stories and some wisdom that someone else could use, because we all need some kind of help. We all need some sort of shoulder at times in life, because again, life is going to be life. And I try to explain that to my daughters all the time, that nothing is going to ever go the way that you want it to go. But so you gotta move no matter what. And you gotta, take the good with the bad. And sometimes, I feel like when I'm talking to them, I'm trying to preach into myself, because I always have these conversations with my dad. And it's like, sometimes I miss out on the joys of my life. And I can admit that. There have been joys in my life that I've missed out on because because I'm fearful. I've been living fearful that you know you know the other shoe's going to drop, right? So it's like I feel like I can't get too happy, because if I get too happy, something's going to happen, because everything is going, when things go too right, I get fearful, right? And I'm a believer. I believe in God. I pray, and I try my best to have as much faith as I possibly can. But I still, the human side of me, when things go too right, there are fears that pop up in my life. And I've been trying to be different with that. I've had a number of friends, and try to talk me through that. And I was I felt like I was coming out of that, right? I was coming out of that to a piece, to a point. But then my brother is just like, well, Lord, you know things are, it's like things are going really, really good, really, really good. And then I'm woke, I'm awakened, with a phone call about my brother. And it's just like, there's that shoe. But you know what, man, I can't do that, because he wouldn't want me to do that. He'd want me to live and move on and just be as happy as possible. So that's what I'm trying to do. And so this is one thing that I'm doing, the Force Pivot podcast. So because again, everybody has a story. If you're walking on this earth, you've got a story. You've got a story of something that's happened in your life where you've actually tried to make a decision on your own. You've pivoted on your own and it's been successful, or you pivoted on your own and it wasn't successful, or like I said, you woke up one day and like we all did, and the world was different, and we were all forced to live a different way. So with that, I think what I'm going to do now is really just bring on my first guest. This brother, it's so funny because he and I had breakfast. We broke some bread together right after Christmas. So in January of 2020, I think it was, we sort of sat down and we sort of plotted this path a little bit about something, trying to, again, get me to pivot, right? It's funny. We plotted this path to try to get me to pivot or whatever. And next thing a month and a half later, the world shut down. So that really, that pivot didn't happen, but now we're here, and I think it's, you know, we're going to pivot right now. We're going to pivot no matter what, right now. So we're going to pivot right no matter what. We're going to make some things happen. We're going to do some things differently. COVID, no COVID. We're just going to do it, right? And so this brother is, he's a father. He's a speaker. He's a dedicated husband. He's a philanthropist. He's a fatherhood specialist. I'm pretty sure he's known around the country. But he's a friend, right? And he called me that day, that week, to say, hey man, let's break some bread. And it shocked me because I met him a couple of years ago before he actually relocated to North Carolina. And then boom, here he is right here in my backyard, and wanting to help me and wanting to do something with me. So I was like, what better person to call on as my first guest than Patrick Patterson. So here we go. Patrick, hold on for a second, brother. Patrick Patterson, how you doing, man?
Man, it is good to hear your voice, brother. You are in your space. You're in your space. You're in your
I'm trying,
space.
man. I'm trying.
It's flowing, man. It's just coming out. It's effortless. I didn't want it. I was like, don't bring me on yet, brother, because you're kind of going through some good stuff there, man. Some good
Right.
stuff.
Right. Well, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you, man.
Introduce yourself, man.
Sure.
I know you're a CEO.
Yeah. I'll say two things. One, I want to, before I do that, just commend you for taking the step.
Mm-hmm.
And doing your first podcast, setting up the podcast. It's to be commended because people don't know the kind of mental Olympics you went through to get to this point.
Mm-hmm.
They see the podcast and you're out here, but I just want to acknowledge you and just encourage you. There's no podcast like yours. Just do your thing, man. Do your thing.
Okay.
So I'm proud of you. Very proud of you.
Thank you much, man. Thank you.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
Patrick Patterson. I'm born in South Carolina. Country boy. Really, really excited about being here. Went to public school there. I went to Benedict College, which is a small HBCU in South Carolina. And I have graduate degrees from the University of South Carolina in social work and public health. Loving husband, as you said earlier. My wife and I in June will celebrate 25 years, which I'm really proud about. We have two beautiful daughters. Our oldest is 16 and our baby girl is 14. And professionally speaking, I'm a social worker.
Mm-hmm.
So I have, for the last 8 years, been the president and CEO of Global Partners for Fathers and Families, a company that I started. And I heard you mention fear earlier, in extreme fear, but I have since been to 46 states and 7 countries doing the work we're doing. So I felt everything you said as you were doing, you're kind of opening. So happy to be here. We live in Wake Forest. Mm-hmm. We moved here in 2016, and I'm just so happy to be here, man.
Well, good, man. I mean, like I said, I think that's one of the things that sort of attracts me to you, man, is because my wife and I, we celebrated 25 years back in December.
Congrats,
right? Black marriage, man, black love.
Let's go.
I tell everybody, it's like people raved about Michelle and Barack, but man, I've been seeing black love all my life. So I'm happy about that. But and my daughters are 2 years apart, as well. So but good, man. Thank you for being this guest, man. But I know, like, what we had talked about back in January 2020, about, possibly getting out here on the scene, speaking to people, doing workshops, doing seminars. Right. Mm-hmm. So I thought about you, when everything went boom,
mm-hmm.
I'm like, well, dang, how is that affecting Patrick? Because I know you're out there in the mix and everything is shut down. It's like, so how did you how did that affect you? I mean, how did you pivot with your business?
Yeah, well, it's a good thing you started there. For a long time, 20 years. I mean, I started my business 8 years ago, but for 20 plus years, I have been training and speaking. I've worked under President Bush, President Obama, President Trump, and I currently manage a contract through President Biden. So I've been doing the work for a long time. For myself, it's one thing when you're doing it for a company, but for yourself, it's a huge pivot. It's a real shift. So I would be lying to you if I say I didn't say, but amazingly, man, one of the things that I have learned is everything has an opportunity in it. Mm-hmm. So I've been doing grant writing trainings. I've done about $70 million in grants. I've done grant writing trainings for years. I've done fatherhood trainings and stuff for schools. And about 2 months after COVID shut us down, in our house, it was March 13th. Mm-hmm. That was a Friday. Everything was shut down. About 2 months later, I said, I'm gonna try to host a Zoom. What is Zoom? I'm gonna try to host a virtual training. And I did it for grants. I was struggling with, do you do $1.99? You know, how do you do this? You know, because it's unprecedented.
Right.
And I've got several mentors that have just kind of continued to help me think differently. And one of them said, well, you still giving the same content you would in person? I said, yeah. He said, well, why would you lower the price? So this day, Antoine, this was pivotal for me. I charged $199. I had 200 people go up to this training. And it was like a fearful, faithful moment. And what God said to me at that moment was, I got you. I got my wife, who's been with me since I was 16. I'm 47. She was like, it's gonna be fine. And I'm thinking, but what about clicking the things and whatnot? But in 2020, I did 161 trainings.
Wow.
Virtually, because I could be in California, Atlanta, and New Orleans by the end of the night. So it got to a point where I never used any kind of calendar apps to manage. I just regular calendar, but it got to a point where, you know, so it was a pivot, but it was a moment where I think most of us stop and we either get afraid or you get more faithful. And for me, I was both. And then for me, life lessons have taught me, God says to me throughout phases of my life, we had a miscarriage in the first few years of our pregnancy and just frozen, you know, like we're never going to have kids. You start thinking like this, you know, my business will not flourish. You know what I mean? I won't be able to be a millionaire at some point. You start having this tape in your head. And what I've learned to your initial question about when COVID hit, you have to replace the tape.
Right.
If you sit by yourself, it's going to loop on the same song over and over again. And the right people around you, you know, a dedicated time for yourself to really replenish. I meditate, I work out, I exercise, I pray. Those 4 things, man, I do on a daily basis. And it's just, you have to do that as a Black man, as a father. You know, most people want answers from us.
Right.
And sometimes I need answers. You know what
I mean? All the time.
You know what I mean? So long way of saying it was scary. And then it did like this, man. It was the best year. I did 4 times the business in 2020 that I've done in everything I've made for the 4 or 5 years previous. I did double that in 2020.
Wow.
Collectively, I did double that in 2020.
Wow.
Sitting in this chair, by the way, which was in the beginning of COVID, it was an ironing board. You know?
Hey, man, look, that is amazing. That is amazing. You know, and I know for me, it's like, you know, I told, like, we talked yesterday, and I was like, you know, I've had so many ideas run through this brain of mine, and then, you know, I reached a point, you know, back in 2020 where, you know, it's like all the ideas seemed to want to dry up just because of something I was going through with my job, and now that I'm, you know, God's brought me out of that, and it's like my mind is just popping now. It's just like, I'm ready, let's go. You know, I'm like, what's next? You know. But you know, I like, and that, you know, and we hadn't talked about this, but when you mentioned about your wife, and, you know, you guys were married 25 years, and that you had a miscarriage. My wife and I did as well.
Yeah.
Our first baby, you know, I'm on some business trip, and, you know, we lose our first baby, and I'm in Boston, and she's at home by herself. And when I came home, I was like, that's it. I'm not getting on another plane.
Yeah.
Not for work. I'm not leaving.
Yeah.
And so I instantly changed jobs, you know, just like overnight, because I'm like, I wasn't there, you know, I'm not gonna not be there, you know, I'm not, you know, in the future. So, you know, things happen, you know, it's sort of like, you know, you roll a ping pong ball in a bunch of ping pong balls, and you know, you hit one, and that one's gonna take off and hit another.
Yeah.
And you know, but when COVID hit, I know for me, man, I kind of went into you know, I mean, I'm not I don't own any companies or just a full-blown entrepreneur, but but as far as like home, that's the thing that struck me the most. So
Yeah.
how did COVID force you to pivot in your house as a father,
Yeah.
or as a husband? How did you, what happened there? Did anything
Yeah.
happen there that stands out?
That was a great question, man. I will start by saying, in the scary months after March, we got
Mhm.
COVID. I got COVID. My wife got COVID. My oldest got COVID. So
Oh wow.
this is when people were dying, like left and right.
Yeah.
Everything was shut down.
Right.
So people, and it was interesting because I was somewhat ashamed to share it, but then always have this God speak to me moment. And
Hmm.
so I shared it publicly, and people were like, prayers for prayers for Patrick, prayers for the Pattersons. My family was really concerned, but I was mildly affected. But I mean, my wife was very, very, very sick. My wife had COVID and pneumonia at the same time.
Uh, wow.
So just before we moved into this house, we lived in an apartment that was 3 bedrooms. And you and I talked about this the other day, but I mean, you got to start thinking like this. I was so grateful because we had the quarantine. And now that apartment, there was no quarantine. I mean,
Right.
it's sardines, is what it is. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
But we were able to isolate, and the only person who didn't have COVID was my baby, who at the time was 12. And I'll never forget how quickly she set up. We have these devices, these phones. She set up a We Are Family group text.
Hmm.
And so she started ordering stuff from Wegmans, which wasn't on this side, it was on the other
Right.
side of town. And they were delivering. She started ordering with our card. She started ordering food, and she would deliver it, and she would text us and say, Dad, your turn. She's 12 now. Dad, your turn to get your food. Mom, my wife was downstairs. I was upstairs. My daughter was in her room, and my baby girl was in her own room. So just, and I'm just like, Lord, thank you. And I told my mom, I was like, this is so amazing. She said, well, she didn't get that out of the air.
Right.
Um,
Right.
she said that came from this. But I'll say this last thing, then I want to answer your question. But the prayers of our parents and grandparents. My wife was really sick. And I remember one night, Antoine, I was upstairs. My wife was downstairs. My wife would get up for 2 hours and cough. And I couldn't do anything
Hmm.
besides stand by the door, offer her water, and she'd just be coughing. I never forget this one particular night, man. I was upstairs in our closet, and I was going to get something because I couldn't sleep. And my mother called me at like 3 a.m., which she never does.
Hmm.
And I was crying. My mother called me. She said, I knew you needed me.
Mm.
And when I tell you that kind of faith experience happened from my daughter doing what she did to my mom calling me, it was a rebirth of our faith, man. So in short, in my house, everything faith for us, everything family for us, we just took it to the next level.
Right.
We appreciate each other more in terms of time. Um, we are serious about taking time off. I mean, I work hard, you work hard, you know how it goes.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I have no problem saying to people, I'm not available. Whereas in the past, when I was hustling, I would make accommodations and I'd make apologies to my family. But now, no day is promised.
Mhm.
So I treat it like that. But meditation, I didn't do before COVID. A friend of mine, in the middle of COVID, we were on the phone with a group of other fathers doing a group session. And before we got started, brothers were anxious. You can feel it. They were, huffing and puffing. And my man said, before we get started, let's just follow me. And he meditated. I was supposed to present that day, and I had notes, 3 pages of notes, and we meditated. And all that I had prepared, I did like this. I closed the book and I spoke for an hour. And I told him after, I said, bro, what was that?
Right.
He said, if you can't go outside, you go inside.
Right.
And that's when COVID was. So I said, man, help me. I love what just happened. And so my faith practices, my self-care practices all changed. Our conversations with our kids, which were regular, but I mean, we was like, let's be a little bit intentional about
Right.
this time. So
Yeah. I know. In my house, man. For me, it was. I mean, I was fearful, brother. I mean, like everybody else,
yeah.
because I have a compromised immune system,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, okay, I mean, I can't get sick, bro.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can't get sick,
Mm-hmm.
and so I mean, we clamped down hard, and
Mm-hmm.
my girls, I mean, we weren't out and about.
Mm-hmm.
We were in the house.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, around each other. I'm cooking dinner every. I mean, we weren't going out to pick.
Yeah.
In the beginning, we weren't grabbing. We weren't ordering and going to grab it. We were cooking.
Yeah.
I was the only one who left the house.
Yeah.
I would go to the grocery store. I'm maxed up, gloved
Yeah.
up. I'm like, nobody's going with me. If anybody gets sick, it's going to be me.
Yeah.
And then I'm just going to live in the car. I'll live in the
Yeah.
garage.
Yeah.
I'm not coming to. I'm not coming to the house.
Yeah.
So I mean that was really for me. I mean, it just locked down, man. Because and my mind went to just a bunch of different places because because I just started thinking about the humanness of what we didn't know we were going to go through.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this thing could turn bad.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because people could panic. Because we had none of us knew what was about to happen. And so I'm thankful that didn't happen.
Yeah.
Because I mean you watch enough movies and you're like, okay, the film, art imitates life. And
ain't all fiction. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. So so that was my thought. It was just completely lockdown, safety. I'm the provider. I've got to go out here and kill this thing and bring it home because I'm not letting them get it out. I'm not letting them out of the house because I'm just so I'm fearful. But I mean, I look back at it. I'm glad my girls were in the house with us. We spent a lot of time together. I remember the first that first Christmas, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've got three brothers. Well, I've got three brothers, and we normally get together at my baby brother's house or something for Christmas, and we did a Zoom Christmas. I mean, it was, it was kind of crazy, but I mean, it was what it was, and we as long as we could see each other, my brothers and I, man, look, probably every couple of days. Like we would get on WhatsApp every couple of days. Boom, all four of us on a video. And it was just so good because if we hadn't had COVID, we wouldn't have done that. Because we weren't doing it pre-COVID. So it's like this thing. I think it made people close their ranks. Which family wise and which is a good thing. Is a good thing. And I pray that a lot of families receive that. That they got that closeness that they may not have gotten, without it. And like one of the things too that we had was that my daughter, being a senior in high school, and it's like, okay, she wanted to start a program, and I'm like, okay, you know what, we're gonna start this program, and we're gonna do it virtually because then you can reach little girls all over the country. And that's what we did, and that thing took off like wildfire. And so it's still she's still looking to do that work, and I'm like, now and she's trying to get her to buy in to doing this. You're trying to get a high school senior to sit down to do something. Dude, without COVID, she probably wouldn't have bought in. Because she'd have been wanting to be out with her friends, doing this, doing that. But with COVID, and it's like, I found myself having to apologize a lot. Because, I don't know how your girls are, but it's just like, everything is daddy's fault. Everything is daddy's fault. And I'm like, well, no, not my fault. You blame that on COVID. I mean, you can't blame me.
Yeah.
You gotta
Yeah.
blame that one on COVID. No,
Yeah.
you can't go out tonight. Why? Because COVID. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not because I said no, But
Yeah.
I just pray a lot of people got that closeness out of that, that
I,
had the ability to be locked in the house together.
I think a lot of people that I've spoken to have discovered truths about people, about themselves, about their jobs, about their careers.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I didn't like this trend because there was a whole series of Facebook posts, and people will say, if you don't come out of COVID with a new business, then you wasted the time. And
Right.
I don't think that's really not fair to people.
Right. I agree.
Everybody's not built to sing or to dance or to start a new business. My only hope for people during that time was that they actually had a chance to reset. I mean, before COVID, most people were like, I can't wait for my vacation. I'm going to Black Bike Weekend or whatever they were going to do. Then you have 2 years.
Right.
And everybody wanted to go outside, and then things are opening and people want to be back inside now. So it's an interesting journey, man. But I think for a lot of people, it was a chance to reevaluate and learn some truths. I know for myself, my wife's business tripled in size during COVID.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was a blessing, but the beauty of us and the people that we hang with is that we're kind of all cheerleaders. So it's like, why can't you? I mean, okay, if it doesn't work, then we go on to the next thing. While most people are really focused on perfection and excellence and people being, applauding it. But I'm of the mindset, probably the last 10 years of my life, if I don't try, I won't know. So,
dude, I mean, I feel the same way. In my sort of line of work, there's this sort of world that I was living in. I mean, it's called agile, right? Where you're kind of, you don't plan it from 1 to 1,000. You sort of start off and you make it up as you go. Right?
Yeah.
You iterate on things, and that's sort of where my mindset is. It's like I'm willing to jump into anything, and it's like I'm building a plane as we're falling out of the sky. But because that's how you you put together, you put this minimum viable product, right? And you put that together. You put that together first, and then you go. Because if you sit back and wait until it's all laid out and done, you'll never do it. You will never do it because you'll get halfway in and then you'll stop. So it's like, okay, let's go.
Yeah.
Like besides the podcast, I've got something else that I'm working on. It's like, me and a partner of mine, we're going to do it, and we're going to see what happens. And because we found that, I think we found a need, and we're gonna put it together, and we're gonna do it. And if it's just with 10 cans in a shoestring, whatever, we're gonna do that, and we're gonna push it along and see what happens with it, and we'll iterate on it. We'll make it better. And then next thing we're gonna be I'm thinking hopefully smooth sailing with it, because it's something that's not out there.
Yeah.
And if it's not there, then there's a need. So we're gonna put together. And like I said, I mean, my pivoting from this toxic environment that I had and leadership that I had at my job to where I'm at now, it's like my mind is firing on all cylinders, man.
Was it overnight that you felt the difference between leaving the toxic? Overnight?
Man, it was when I got the job offer. That was it.
Yeah.
My mind went flick. But one of the things that, again, I think I battled some depression and some anxiety all through that. And one of the things that sort of still nags me a bit is that I feel like I didn't get closure, because I felt like, this leadership that I had was just so toxic that, I felt like they got away with it. Well, not really, because one of the guys did get fired, but the other one, he got away with it. He just retired. It's like, wow, he got away with it. Nobody asked a question. Nobody. And it's like, I didn't get to tell anybody about what was going on.
Yeah.
So my wife was like, Antoine, you gotta let that go.
Yeah.
You gotta just let that go. Move on. You're not in that environment anymore. But again, where I'm at now, I'm happy, and how it happened, it had to be it had to be God, man.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, things that happen so easily like that, and I've noticed that all my life, man. That
Yeah.
when things happen, just like, and I can't explain why it happened.
Mm-hmm.
That's all God, man.
Yeah.
That's all God, just moving me where He want me to be,
Yeah.
and I'm going to be obedient, and I'm going to go. You
Yeah.
know, it's funny that you mentioned when you mentioned sometimes you just have to go. You just got to go
Mm-hmm.
do it, right? There's a quote. Gosh, what's the quote? It's by I grew up. I watched Star Trek and Star Wars, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So what does Yoda say? I wrote this down. Yoda said, "Do or do not. There is no try."
Yeah.
Right? It's do or do not.
Yeah.
And I think about that. Around the pivot thing. It's like whether you make that choice or whether you don't make that choice, and it's
Yeah.
forced upon you. It's you're going to either do or not do.
Yeah.
And it's okay. I tell my daughters all the time. It's okay to pause,
Yeah.
right? It's okay to take a step to the left. It's
Yeah.
okay to take a step to the right.
Yeah.
But we're not going to take any backward steps. It's
Yeah.
all forward steps all the time. Forward
Yeah.
steps, and if you got to pause, pause. But
Yeah.
we're not going to go back. I was telling a buddy of mine a couple nights ago. He's a playwright, and we were talking
Mm-hmm.
about that there's something I read somewhere where some explorers got to an island or something,
Mm-hmm.
and they were like, burn the boats. They're
Yeah.
like, burn the ships. When
Yeah.
I was like, well, if you burn the ships,
Guess what?
if you right, if you burn the boats,
Yeah.
what does that mean?
Yeah.
That means there's no going back.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Burn the boats, and we're not
Yeah.
going back. So we're either going forward or we're not going to move at all.
I think for me, man, one of the things that's helped me tremendously is my faith, and that's not just a cliche thing to say, but I believe in myself
Mm-hmm.
to a point that I've always been the underdog. I play sports. They were like, "This dude 5'6", and I would crack somebody in the forehead the first play of the game, just to establish I'm here.
Right, you're just gonna say this is where we are.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
So watch me because I'm coming.
Right.
But all my life I've been an underdog. And I pridefully appreciate people who underestimate me. But I one of my good friends said that makes you a fighter.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a good thing. But there's a certain point in your career where you don't have to fight anymore. And I remember when I bought my last vehicle, I went in with shades on. You thought I was part of NWA. And
who were you, Dre?
I was easy. I was easy. I'm short. I was easy. So listen, I went in, right? I mean, I had everything that they look for in a purchaser, a car purchaser. So, but from the first time I bought a car, I was worried about them taking my money. The second time, I was worried to take. So I was, and then I went in. I said, "Listen, this is what I want. This is what I." And the guy said, "Sure." And we left out of there. It takes 6 hours to buy a car, right?
Yeah.
We left out there in 1 hour. I had the keys and the car. And so I called my pastor. I said, "Man, that was crazy." I said, "I feel like something ain't right." He said, "You don't have to fight anymore."
You're waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Right. But most of us are accustomed to, better do it now because this ain't gonna last. It's gonna rain soon. And we condition ourselves to believe that it can't be good. And when in fact, it can be.
Yeah.
It can be sustained. And so my mindset, man, the books that I've read, Antoine, in December of the last 2 years, I love music. I mean, I listen to music all the time. When I hang up with you, I'll be listening to music. But December of the last 2 years, I spent 30 days without music. I listened to John Maxwell, Les Brown, Oprah Winfrey, T.D. Jakes. I listened to all these, Zig Ziglar. I did motivation every morning when I was exercising, when I walk. And what I realized was that we have to replenish what's in our heads. You have to excavate the things that are old and bring things in that are new. And I found myself at the beginning of last year and the beginning of this year, it was like the beginning of a 5K. I could not wait until the gun went off for the new year to start. And people say, you could have started then. I said, no, I wanted to discipline myself to be ready. But when I tell you how things have manifested, it's not because of I'm brilliant, but I have created a vision for myself. I have learned that I need a team. For years, I would approach conversations with my hands closed, ready to fight. And then God said to me, you have to open your hands.
Right.
You can't get nothing in there if they're like this. So I started doing this, and people that I never thought I'd be working with. I have 15 team members, and they're from Utah to Florida. People I've never met, actually, that have, when I did this, my insufficiencies or things I didn't know, when I did this, LinkedIn, or a friend said to me, I said, I need somebody who can edit. In the past, I wouldn't even raise the comment because I was like, I don't want Antoine thinking I don't know how to edit a document. But over and over again, God said to me, and I say to my team, is trust me. And it's just multiplied. I mean, the level of work that we're doing now, God is amazing. But, there's a saying that faith without work is dead. I remember this old pastor, I'll say this last thing. He said there was a story of an old man and his son in a boat. And as the storm was approaching, the son asked his dad, do we row faster or do we pray? And the son was puzzled as he looked at his father. He's like, the storm is coming, Dad. Do we pray? And his dad said, do both. Let's do both. And the point is, you can't just row.
Right.
You can't just pray. You got to do both. And the space that I'm in right now, Antoine, and the space that you're in as you're starting your podcast, just for me as a reminder, I usually say I got to do both. And I just say to you, like, where you're going, it's going to require both. Sometimes it's going to be things you can't physically move.
Yeah.
All you got is prayer. And then there are days where it's coming at you. You need to use your hands to do something with it. But my wife has been beyond amazing. My wife was a corporate executive 25 years ago. We got married. My wife is normally right. She said, we should work together. I said, hey, no way. I said, I like this break for 8 hours. You know what I mean? This is young Patrick, right?
Right.
I said, bruh, I'm good. I promise you, we would get divorced if we was together all day.
Right.
And then 8 years ago, I was doing things. I was booking stuff for myself. I was trying to book my own flights. And then my wife said, let me help you. I was like, same mental. I'm good. And then I got to a point where I couldn't do it. And, the ego of a man can be dangerous sometimes. But I was like, I can do this myself. I'm an underdog. Right. And then there was a point where I couldn't. And my wife slid in. She took over my calendar. She started taking the business calls. And it's to a point now where we meet every Monday at 7 a.m. We meet at same place you and I met for breakfast. And my wife and I sit for an hour and a half. And it amazes me because I trusted her, which I trust her in our relationship. I never been around business, so I didn't know who to trust, right? So
Right.
Mondays, she says, you're going to Utah, you're going to West Virginia, you've been in Ohio, you got this virtual training. This is how the weeks go. And she's getting paid. Everything we book, she gets a pretty nice percentage of everything that's booked. But what I'm saying is, for a lot of us, as we start a business, we're typically closed and don't want people to know things that we don't know. when truthfully, your support is, in my case, was right next to me.
Right. All the time.
The 25 years. Well, we started dating when I was 16. I'm 47.
Right.
But that has just orbited my process, and people truly respect when I say to them, let me get back to you. I need to check I had a call today with this lady in West Virginia. She offered me a really nice opportunity. And she was like, well, we need to get this signed pretty soon here. I said, well, I hear you. But let me check my business manager. Now, I didn't say my wife, but she said, oh, you have a business manager? I said, yes. The whole time thinking, I'm not going to miss no dental appointments. I'm not going to.
Right.
But that's the space, man.
I mean, I'm learning the same sort of thing.
Yeah.
Like I said, I mean, my mind's always running, right? And then when I think of things, it's like this project that I'm still working on. It's like, okay, I know I can't do this by myself.
Yeah.
I know I can't do this alone. So I just ran it by a friend of mine, and he was like, "Whoa." He was like, good idea, man. And then I sort of slept on it, and I'm like, maybe I should ask him if he want to join me.
Yeah.
Because you can't think of everything all the time.
Yeah.
Like you said, you can't have your mind on everything all the time.
No.
And so I reached out to him, and he's like, he was like, well, Antoine, everything that to this point, you sort of done everything. It's like, where do I fit in? I'm like, no, man. I need somebody else to push me, because if I don't have anybody to push me, when you get tired, you just put it on the shelf, and you're not accountable, But that's sort of one of the things that I've always done for myself is, I'm a real transparent person. I'll put stuff out there because everybody's not cheering for you, right? And so if I put it out there and I know that people aren't cheering for me, that means I got to produce. You see what I'm saying? I got to produce because. If I don't put it out there again, I could just put it on the shelf. And I've seen that in my life for years, man. The Lord has just put things on me, put some resources in front of me, and it's like at one time I felt like I was stacking these resources on the mantle, and it's like I feel like if I don't move, he's gonna clear that mantle. So I need to move, And so that when I get into those spaces, that's when I'm like, okay, I'm moving. Just like with the podcast, it's just like I don't know anything about producing a podcast. I don't know anything.
So far, so good.
I don't know anything about this stuff, but I know I produced a little show for my daughter. I'm like, okay, well, I can use the same technology. And then I talked to two people that I know who have podcasts. Podcasts on Spotify, podcasts that are on Apple Podcasts. I'm like, let me call them, and I called them, and sure enough, man, they were like, Antoine, you're already using the tool. It's just like, you click. You're on Apple Podcasts.
Yeah.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
No, easy, just like that. So I'm like, okay, well, we're going to try this thing. We're going to try it. And like I said, and I've been sort of working like over the weekend and just reaching out to contacts and, letting people know that I'm trying to do this. And man, I've got the rest of this month, which the 28th, and I've got the entire month of April guests booked already. So it's just like, wow, that seemed pretty easy. And then and I'm reaching out to and some of the people that I'm setting to talk to, they're like, hey, well, I know some people that you need to talk to. So it's exponential. I'm just looking for the guests, the quality of the guests. I'm already starting up here. And it's just like, Lord, can I go any higher? You know what I'm saying? Can I go any higher, man?
Yeah.
It's like, Lord has allowed me to cross paths with a lot of people. And a lot of good people that influence me and that motivate me, and it's just like, I was telling you that you and I, it's like, when you and I met, we both knew David, and I'm just like, man, see, some things that's not a coincidence, right? For you and I to know the same guy, you know. And then when I saw that you know that you and David and Ken Braswell all running the same circle, I'm like, well, you know, I had Ken Braswell. I met him 15 years ago, you know, on a phone call, you know.
Yeah.
So it's not accidental. It's just
Yeah.
being intentional about being in certain spaces.
Yeah.
You know, being intentional with meeting people who are sort of, you know, like-minded people, you know, who want to do good, right?
Yeah.
And that's always where I've sort of put myself. You know,
Yeah.
I want to be around people that want to do good, you know,
Yeah.
and not good just completely out of the sake of making a buck. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? You
Yeah.
know, you
Yeah.
know, everybody, most of the people, the best people that I've had around me have been got people who work in the philanthropic field
Mhm.
who are just want to do good, man. And
Mhm.
it's just like, you know, and for some years I've been just sort of looking for my lane. It's just like,
Yeah.
where is my lane?
Yeah.
Where's the easiest lane for Antoine to get into?
Yeah.
You know, to do good, something that just comes completely natural to me. I can just wake up and do.
Yeah.
You know, that's why when you and I met, I was like, man, you know, man, Patrick might have, he might have something. He might
Yeah.
be he might have seen something in me I've never
Yeah.
seen in myself. You know.
Man, I think you have amazing ability. And, you know, I'll tell you this too. I know how close you were with your brothers just watching you,
Mhm.
but there is a saying that pain is connected to your purpose.
Mm.
And, you know, you have to, my journey to doing fatherhood for 20 years was tied to my own issues with my own father.
Mm.
And my wings were there, but they really were released when you mentioned the word transparent earlier, when I became really transparent about it. I was in Utah a couple weeks ago and I didn't see anybody look like me, but for 5 days, except for a few people here and there.
Brother, when I lived in Atlanta, I spent 7 days in Orem, Utah,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Carmelone and the Jazz were out of town, so I know I was by myself.
Yeah. I was hoping to go to a game. It was no game. But one of the things that I've learned is that our stories connect us. So in a room of nothing but primarily white females who work with families, I just told my story about my father and how we went this route to land back at my purpose. And I'm going back to Utah twice. I've never been there before. But my transparency has not been just good for people. It's been great for me. I mean,
Mhm.
I always say, people say, well, you sound healed. I say, I'm not healed, I'm better. My father and I landed back in a space of forgiveness that I wish we had started, but I really wouldn't have appreciated if we didn't have this journey. So where am I going with this? Even as you process, you know, you and your brothers and you know, your brother that's now in heaven, there is an audience that is going through or is possibly gone through what you've gone through, and they really just need to know they're not the only one. And
Right.
your story from when you and I had breakfast, you talk about how you guys were raised, and the power of your own father, your parents being married for so many years. You know, that's what separates you. Um, I've been in a room with presidents, and in a normal situation, or other dignitaries. I've been in a room with NFL athletes. I've been in a room with a lot of people who are just more glamorous than I am, but I didn't feel small because
Mhm.
I know that none of them have my story,
Right.
and I don't have theirs.
Exactly.
But a lot of people will measure themselves by the room. Like, this dude got an MBA from Harvard. I just got my bachelor's degree. And what I've learned to level set that emotion, because it's normal to compare yourself. People do it all the time. But
Mhm.
how I maintain my sense of self-worth is nobody has my story. Nobody. Nobody. Not even my
Right.
siblings.
Right.
They don't have my story. And when I
No.
tell you the places that I get invited to to share my story. It's humbling to me because there was a period where I didn't think my story had value. Mm. And then you recognize when people are like, you're like, that's how I started out, when I started really becoming more and more honest and transparent about my, with some points to make. My confidence in who I am, and even my appreciation for my family. Because I didn't grow up with any resources. We were fairly poor technically, but there's a lot of good things that happen in my house. But you hear other people, you're like, whoa, y'all didn't have Thanksgiving? Or I still tell a story, but my mother giving us 1 year for my birthday and Christmas. My mother gave us, I got a skull cap for Christmas. My birthday's in July, by the way. I got a skull cap for Christmas, and I got a red one then and a blue one at Christmas. That was our Christmas gift. But when I think about my family, my mother and my father did the best they could. But I say all that to say, man, your lane, it's been formed. It's been formed. When you go this way or that way, or I'm saying you in general, I've always said this, there's no traffic in your lane. And where I'm running right now, the last 7, 8, 9, 10 years, and it feels like I can't believe I'm going to my 46th state. I can't believe I'm going to Asia. I can't believe I'm going to the Bahamas and somebody's paid for me to come there. I can't believe I'm going to be in West Virginia for the 6th time in 12 months. It's like, but the more that we do what I think God has asked us to do, the more that, you can't hold it. You cannot hold it. And that's just it's been rewarding. I'm praying to God that as my children witness us and they hear us talk, that they get that sense of self-worth. I didn't have it at their age. I was short, dark, my teeth were crooked, and I believe what people said about me. And I doubted myself for a long time. And then I met this girl when I was 16, and she said, I like your smile. I was like, my smile? These teeth? The rest is history.
Man, and it's a good history. I mean, it's definitely, like when we had our talk before, it's definitely making me reflect on my story.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, because everybody's story has value, and my story means more to me than, and some people don't know what their own story means to them.
Yeah.
And when that veil is lifted, their life changes.
Yeah.
And then that's sort of where, I've definitely, been there as well. It's just my story is my story. And
yeah.
And I appreciate that, man. But look, we're winding up. I'm going to be respectful of your time.
Yeah.
Like I said, anybody who's listening, I plan to do this each Monday night. So next Monday, I've got another guest lined up and who's got a story to tell. Another. It's funny because I'm heading to my mentors first, and so this next person is another mentor of mine. So this brother changed my life. When I met him, he changed my life, and we've had our ups and downs and roundabouts, but I love him, and he'll be on next week. I'll probably post some stuff on social media tomorrow about him coming. So if you guys would definitely come check us out again next Monday, I'd appreciate it. But Patrick, man, thank you. Thank you. And like I said, whether your pivot is forced or not, the 2 words of advice that I have for everybody, whether your pivot is forced or not, is to have faith.
Mm-hmm.
Have faith, whether it's forced. Have faith, whether you're stepping out there and doing it, out of your own, your own mental capacity, your own ideas. Just have faith. If you can do that, you won't be able to. You won't fail. So
yeah.
So Patrick, have a good night, man. I'll talk to you later.
You too. Appreciate you, man. Great job.
All right.